welcome back. You're getting a look at fans in Nanjing, China, who are cheering on their teams as they make their bid for the world title. Now we've come to our final match of the day, pitting three-time world's contender AHQ Esports Club against the LPL's Edward Gaming. And the first order of business, gentlemen, is that AHQ has made a substitution and will be starting Chawi in the mid lane in place of Westor.
Exactly. So if Chawi did not play a single game in the summer split, despite what you see in Legends Rising, I'm sorry, but that storyline did not continue very well. He had some personal issues, but last time he played a full split, he was actually the runner-up at MVP position. They picked Chawi up for AHQ because they wanted to fill a void in Westor's champion pool, so this guy is lane dominant, plays a lot of other champions.
Yeah, we were actually looking at his solo queue account just before we started today, and he had a lot of like Syndra, Aurelion Sol in there, who obviously is disabled right now, but Syndra is obviously here. Cassiopeia was being played. A lot of these picks that we see a lot of in the meta, where Westor is more, you know, either the TF or the Malzahar, some of these picks that we maybe don't see so often here at Worlds yet. So I actually think this is a good change, and honestly, it's built around Westor losing his lane too often, and when you play against EDG, you can't lose the mid lane, because that means suddenly you have mid laner roaming to the bottom lane with clear love, and then you have a 4-5-man party down there, and it doesn't work.
Filling in some of those holes for champion select. And these two teams, though, are two teams that are very familiar with each other. So my question to you, Spawn, what can you tell us about the relationship between these two organizations?
Well, I can tell you that when AHQ was struggling during their recent split going into the Gauntlet run, it was actually Aaron, the head coach of the organization of Edward Gaming, you know, that went over there, helped them through some of their difficulties. They are very thankful of that in the past. EDG has also stayed at AHQ's gaming house. AHQ stayed at EDG's gaming house. There's relatively low distance between the two teams, so they scrim each other a lot. So I'd say, as far as like close teams go, these are two of the closest teams in the world.
Yeah, exactly. And AHQ really looks up to RNG as their older, EDG as their older brother, and looked up to them in their macro game, which has improved a lot this year. I was interviewing Westor yesterday after their win against A2K. I asked him, hey, how are you going to beat your older brother? And he said, Mouse. And that's what they're going to try to reproduce from INTZ.
All right, so yeah, given that Mouse, kind of an underperformance yesterday, definitely got taken advantage of in the top lane, do we think Ziv is capable of punishing him in the same way?
Oh yes, Ziv is a fantastic top laner, definitely the best in the LMS, and he can for sure beat out Mouse. We have to remember it wasn't just Mouse losing 1v1, he got ganked multiple times, so we need to see Mountain be very active in the early game and actually camp that top lane.
All right, now on the flip side of this matchup, we do have to talk about EDG, who came in as big favorites here in their group, and maybe, you know, second favorites in the tournament, but suffered a loss at the hands of INTZ, and here they are trying to rebound against AHQ.
Yeah, and it was a devastating loss. I mean, EDG going into that game were heavy favorites. In fact, they were looking to go through this group stages undefeated as they had the regular season. However, you do have to take a step back. It's a best of one. Sure, they got behind very far early, but that was a very uncharacteristic game for Edward Gaming. So I do not expect them to hold much weight towards it. A good slap in the face. They were here very late last night preparing for their game against AHQ, and I want to see them bounce back in a good way.
All right, well, pressure's on. Last game of the day, gentlemen. Time for predictions. So down the line, one more time, Spawn, what are you going to take?
Yeah, I had EDG as the second best team coming into this tournament. I don't think my opinion of them has changed at all. EDG will clean this one up quite quickly.
All righty, how about here?
This is going to be a bit controversial, but I'm actually going to go with EDG as well. I think they just know AHQ too well in this tournament, and they're so familiar with all their little mistakes, and they've taught them everything they learned, so it's kind of difficult for them to get past it.
Big Brother's going to come out on top. Deficio closes out here.
Yeah, I think the game yesterday EDG played, it wasn't the real EDG. I think today we're going to see the real team. I think they're still one of the absolute best in the world, and EDG will win.
All right, redemption for China is on the docket according to the analysts, and with those predictions, it's time to see this one play out on Summoner's Rift. Take it away, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Dash, and we'll see whether EDG can bounce back, because my goodness, was yesterday a tough one for China.
Super tough game yesterday. I'm ready though. Atlas, let's get into this one.
Yeah, damn right. And let's look at the starting rosters for our final game of the day. On the blue side, it is going to be EDG with Mouse, the targeted one on the top side of the map. Clearlove, the god in the jungle. Pawn in the mid lane. Deft as AD carry. Mako as support. And Rapid Star standing behind them to help with the draft.
You know, you heard the analyst desk. These two teams know each other very well. We'll see if it's enough. On the red side, it is AHQ Esports Club. In the top lane, Civ. In the jungle, Mountain. Making his world's debut in the mid lane, it's Chawi. AD carry is on. Support is Albus, and their coach is Green Tea.
And speaking of his making his debut for Chawi, you know, if you watch Legend Rising, you know this guy's story, how much this means to him. You know, he said he just wants his one chance to play on Worlds. It would all be worth it. And if he could pull off an upset against EDG in that debut, oh, that'd
be the way to make your mark at Worlds. And this guy's been trying since, what, 2011? Something like that. Chawi always been on the cusp of World's glory.
But it changes so much in this matchup. We already thought that Pawn coming back in would be a change-up of this matchup alone, but now we see a different mid laner as well. Everything from our prep coming into this a week ago is very different for this matchup.
Yeah, and speaking of Chawi and this mid lane matchup, you know, even though EDG had a bad game yesterday, Pawn was a bright spot. This guy was smashing on Vladimir, who's 4-0-4 at one point, really was doing a lot of the heavy lifting for the team, and Chawi's going to be in tough.
Yeah, and you're talking about champion pools as well. I mean, we did hear Clement mention it on the desk. Chawi, big champion pool. Pawn plays every champion ever made. This guy has an infinite champion ocean. We are seeing the bans coming through. Tahm Kench and Bard, Albus heavily targeted already from EDG, and the Rek'Sai Twisted Fate to come out from AHQ.
Taking away so much away from Albus, you can see that Deft and Mako obviously just don't want any kind of advantage for AHQ when it comes to familiar champions.
Yeah, and Albus, these two champions have been big for him because he's a fantastic roamer. He loves to work with Mountain, to move around the map, and to have big impact with that Tahm Kench ultimate, with that Bard ultimate. They're two of his best playmakers.
Syndra, blue side ban. Wow. Is it going to be jungle priority? Elise, like
finally
AHQ,
banned, yeah.
AHQ basically are forcing the Elise pick here, otherwise they should take it on their rotation. The Lee Sin is available, again, as we've seen previously, but a little bit of a change up here. We don't often see Twisted Fate banned by AHQ because all of the time Westor just wants it for himself.
Yeah, and the Karma is going to be locked in here for EDG. I hope that goes to Mako, because I'd prefer to see Pawn on something like Pantheon that he's, you know, been playing us a little bit secretly. Things like that. The exciting picks, but we'll see. Very flexible pick, however. And now AHQ to make their first couple. We need to talk about Clearlov's Lee Sin, though, with Lee Sin making his way back into this World's meta, because his Lee Sin is unbelievable.
Certainly is very strong, but I actually do like this pick if Mountain is going to go with the Elise. If their game plan is to attack top, I think there's no better jungler to do it with than Elise. This champion excels at turret diving, excels at ganking early and often, but there are a lot of options. You know, Olaf, very high in the jungle priority, Lee Sin, Elise. They have a number of different choices here.
Ooh, Ashe actually locked in for AHQ. We saw one instance of Ashe yesterday.
Ashe has a 100% win rate here at Worlds, despite the nerfs.
Versus EDG.
Versus EDG. Could be the bane.
But I was not expecting it in the first rotation on red side either. The Rumble is very expected at this point. We're now 12 games in, and unanimously this has been one of the biggest picks. But this Ashe, a lot of people thought had fallen off. A fair amount of nerfs came through and hit a lot of what Ashe wanted to do in lane.
And I think it's simply something where they're trying to hide some of their other picks. They want to have more flexibility, you know, with their mid lane, with their jungle, with their support, more of their playmaking champions, and they're comfortable just kind of blind picking this, knowing that they're going to be going up against Deft and Mako. They want to try to play it pretty safe here, I'd imagine, but Ashe is definitely not nearly as strong as it was in the past, and we could see On and Albus get abused with already 2 support bans and him on a lower tier ADC.
Exactly. Yeah. Now the question is, where does Albus go on this? It has to be pretty much the last pick here unless EDG, you know, choose to lock in early. We already know the Karma could be down in that support role with that Lucian already.
And if it is, then that's going to be paired up with the Lucian in the hands of Deft. That is so much early dominance from both of these champions. EDG, we know that they want to make a statement in this game, and we'll see whether this is the start of that.
I think their draft so far has been very intelligent. I think they are drafting a pretty dominant bot lane. You also put Mouse on the Poppy, and the Poppy is a champion where he can play safe. He can sacrifice farm. He doesn't need to have a ton of CS. He doesn't need to smash lane. He just needs to survive. And when you put him on a champion like this instead of Aurelia that he was on before, it's really a big shift in the style that EDG can play. They can sacrifice top lane a little bit without getting too behind.
We'll see if he can play safe with everybody from AHQ being topside like INTZ were yesterday, because the analysts have talked about how much AHQ are going to want to go top 4 Ziv, and a big change out in the supports here for AHQ. It's all about defense in lane. It's all about just surviving through with this Soraka. This pretty much neutralizes a lot of what EDG want just from lane presence, but doesn't give all that much over to AHQ in the same time.
It sounds a little bit disgusting to deal with as well, the old Soraka Ashe lane, but Mountain is going to take away the Olaf one more time as well. We'll see whether the undertow harpoon combination is going to be enough to keep down this Poppy. Clearlove thinking about hopping on the horse as Mako cycling through his repertoire of supports, putting Pawn on the Karma in the mid lane, theoretically. If that's going to be the wife steal bottom lane, this is something EDG have destroyed people with in the past.
It certainly is possible for them to just flex that Karma to mid, as you said, and Nami Lucian will be a very strong 2v2 lane here into the Soraka and that Ashe, and it looks like that's exactly what it's going to be, so it's kind of a protect the death comp a little bit, as that Karma very oftentimes is going to go for those more kind of hybrid type supportive builds where you go for the Athenes, you pick up even sometimes, you know, even more support items.
Yeah.
I'm interested now, guys. We're about to find out. Chawi, his first professional game in 6 months, and he has counterpick for mid lane on red side, but it's against Karma. So you can't really pick too many things that are going to dominate that lane. But what does Chawi want? We heard the analyst desk talking about how big his champion pool is. We know he's been practicing a lot. You can look at his profile, you'll even see the Blanc coming in there just from solo queue games. So he does have a wealth of champions.
Yeah, and a lot of it is going to come down to how good of a pick he really has in his pocket against the Karma, which is pretty passive. And to me, a lot of this draft is really going to come down to shutting down Death, because he's so much of their damage. And if they have some way to actually roam and shut him down, wow, okay.
Speaking of utility there on the mid lane, the Zillion is going to be locked in for Chawi. That paired up with Soraka has to be one of the most annoying combinations League of Legends has to offer.
It's certainly very annoying, and it works really well in conjunction with the Olaf. You have the speed up.
Yeah.
This guy just flies in on your back line and can be very, very scary to deal with, because champions like Nami, super squishy. Yes, he has the protection from the Karma, but still, you can get in the back line, you can be sped up, you have that ultimate as well, but that's going to be tough.
Yeah, I like the long-range sort of engage with the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, as well as the follow-up with the Equalizer as well that AHQ do have. Then the double bombs can come in on top of that. We'll see whether AHQ can layer all this, because it's an interesting team composition. We haven't seen these 5 champions laid out together for a long time.
Yeah, they're very unorthodox composition, but EDG on the other side, not such the case. You got the Hecarim for the engage, fairly straightforward. Poppy can provide, of course, a little bit of crowd control, some disengage. Coaches shake hands. This is a highly anticipated matchup here between EDG and AHQ, and it's our last one of the day.
Yeah, it most certainly is. And one last time today, hop on Twitter and send us the hashtag EDGWin or the hashtag AHQWin to @LOL Esports, and we'll see who you're backing and let you know during the game. But my goodness, once again, it's a Hecarim. I mean, I'm going to try not to get triggered. Seeing Hecarims is a scary thing for me, because he did fall out of favor a little bit and didn't quite win as many games over in the LPL. But Clearlove, of course, an outstanding jungler, and we saw MLXG do ridiculous things on it yesterday.
Yeah, and Hecarim has just been so popular in the LPL all season long, and I think that it does work well with those speed ups that you have from the Karma. You have this really kind of strong front line too, with the Mouse, with Clearlove flying in, looking for those flanks, and it's really going to be a lot about the team fighting and how much faith they're putting in Deft here to carry, because they can protect him, and he is going to be the one to put out a lot of the damage.
And once again, now he's on this early game powerhouse of the Lucian. We know what this champion's capable of, and can he get off to that start that EDG really, really want from him? And can Mouse neutralize this lane against the Rumble on the Poppy, because it was so heavily targeted yesterday?
And I've got to say, I think he can. I just don't see, you know, Mountain on this Olaf and Ziv on the Rumble as super lane down, as super heavy ganking champions. Unless Mouse is playing too aggressive, unless he's playing far up, he's not really going to be super susceptible to these ganks.
That's a lot about the top side. If you want to check out more about the bottom side, you can see it Mako versus Albus. You can check that over out on the player experience streams, but we're here in the whole game. We've got Deft Mako, they spot the ward,
and
they get the kill.
First CS going for EDG as Arn gets the volley onto Deft. Mako.
Here's Pawn.
Yeah, in goes Pawn. That's the flash already. The Ignite down. Arn, will they flash for it? One more auto attack was there, but they needed a few more. Not getting greedier. EDG is Deft, just playing with the turret range. Oh my goodness. They got something to prove today.
This basically just won EDG the laning phase. Like, they pushed them back at level 1 to the point where Ann has to flash. The exhaust is gone, and Albus is stuck around on low health.
Well, Mako's in trouble.
Yeah, flash. There's a big flash, and there's the Undertow Mountain. Looking for Mako. There's, of course, no flash here. Pawn, does he have to
more axes to throw, it looked like there. They just didn't have the damage to finish off Mako, and this is massive for EDG as back goes Mountain into the jungle. No leash. Clearlove's already level 2, working his way down to the bot side.
The most ridiculous start to a game we've had so far here at Worlds. There is one advantage that comes out for AHQ, and it's a minimal one, in that Xiao hit level 2 first from mid lane. He got the push, he was able to get level 2, punish his pawn slightly, but again, we spoke about this, it's a Karma lane. It's not the same kind of equivalent. Zilean isn't going to have full control over this, so it's a minimal lead at best.
Yeah, and on the other side of the rift, of course, Clearlove has just had free reign of his jungle, still just charging around, clearing out as many camps as possible. 12-6 now in comparison to Mountain. So this Hecarim, the weak early game that you expect from this champion, most certainly not there and not going to be punished here by AHQ.
Deft goes forward.
Yeah, big combo there. Deft does find the Q. Arn still okay as Albus is able to heal him back up.
Clearlove's actually pinging around here. They may be looking to go on Chawi if he does move a little bit too far forward.
Yeah, look at that ghost cooldown because Clearlove will be popping that if they want to go for this kill.
He,
Here they go. There it is. The ghost has been popped. There's a flash by Pawn. They do want to get it. Clearlove knocks him back. Chowie is dead and Pawn gets first blood.
Beautiful play there by Pawn. He flashes forward with the tether immediately. So even though Chawi reactively flashed, he could not get out of range of the tether. They lock him down, and Clearlove knocks him back in for an easy first blood.
Welcome to the World Championships. Chowie gets first blooded for AHQ, couldn't stay alive.
He didn't have a lot of options in his defense.
That's fair. I was going to say he actually had put 2 points in Q, which is fairly standard for Zilean players, which means he had no hope. Despite having the flash available, couldn't maneuver away fast enough as soon as it comes up. There was no real one.
So well played. He knew that Chawi would flash away. He speeds himself up, is right on top of him. So even though Chawi flashed away, he could not get out of range of the tether. And once he's locked in for that, Clearlove pushes him back in with his E. And just so well coordinated there, but you have to say, top lane looking pretty rough already.
Again, he's not bad. Arn's in trouble, destroyed as Deft grabs another one, and Clearlove, this guy, here to prove that yesterday is something that we should just not be talking about at all.
Easy play onto the flashless Ashe in the bottom lane. Clearlove is making his mark on this game so quickly, and at this point, EDG may even be looking to run away with this very early on.
Yeah, and I mean, I take back everything I said about Hecarim not being an early game jungler. That's 2 successful ganks, didn't look too bad.
We have to keep in mind, though, AHQ is actually winning out in farm very heavily in top side and in the mid lane, even despite that first blood. So this is not that massive of a gold lead just yet.
There is a reason for that in the middle lane, and that's that Chowie expended his teleport, whereas Pawn did not off that trade in the middle lane. So Pawn just kind of recalled, bought up, ran back to lane. So he's okay sacrificing some of that CS difference in order to become involved in fights. Maybe he'll be able to bail out Mouse if he ends up in a tough situation here. An has come up to the top side. A kind of a delayed lane swap coming out from AHQ from being so far behind. We've seen this after the first back timings from AD carries in winning top lane matchups, but AHQ, they haven't got enough pace here to take the tower.
That was very close, the undertow steal, as Clearlove looking to try and defend for his top lane. Is AHQ well and truly committed to this lane swap?
And I mean, Ziv needs to get down to the bot side because otherwise they're just going to give up this turret. And he gets stopped again, I guess, decides to cancel that base, but it's going to be able to give Deft a lot of free time on the bot side, and they're moving 5 top. They want to commit to this.
Yeah, Charlie wants to take that one down. Mountain here clearing out the pink ward that was put down. Mouse and Clearlove get themselves to safety. As you can see, Mako and Deft already at work trying to take down that turret. It's a race for first blood turret.
It's going to AHQ.
Yeah, it's going to AHQ, and this is actually going to even out that gold almost completely.
Massive, massive commitment up into that top side. They had the Rumble ultimate available as well. Now, Civ goes to the bottom side to defend. Pawn is going to come in here. They're going to look to dive Civ, but there goes the minion wave. Cancel on the TP out by Pawn.
This is brilliant by AHQ. This was actually such a good move. They timed it out very well. Ziv gets level 6, so he's able to respond. Bot side, TP's back. Pawn has to waste his TP because the Rumble ult just clears that out. So really nice adaptation. And AHQ, yes, they're down 2 kills, and the level 1 was horrible. They're up gold. They're doing great.
Yeah. got to keep everything. You know, you got to make sure you can see the forest for the trees at that point. The actual advantage that is there. So at this point, Ziv has such a big advantage over Mouse as well. We can see the CS difference. This time, Mouse has only really had one play go against him, and kind of is in the same spot. Admittedly, you were talking about the Poppy Rumble matchup, Azael. Maybe not exactly the most Poppy favored.
No, definitely not. But I did not expect it to look like this. And to be fair, there was 5 AHQ members in the top lane at like 6 minutes, right? So that
one play.
It might be one play,
time,
but a pretty significant play. And I think that as long as he doesn't bleed out too much CS, they're definitely fine. They are down a little bit of gold, but they can recoup that later on. Still, I think it was an intelligent move, and one that had to be made, because Ashe was at such a disadvantage to the solution at this point in the game. They were just trying to stay away.
Oh, blue steal from Clearlove. Just pops in, says thanks for the leash, and wanders on out. Almost too easy there.
And that's where Mountain just needs to smite it. When you see Clearlove coming in, yes, you want to give that over to Chowie, but it's much better to just take it for your own team.
Oh, I can see Chowie now back to try and throw some bombs at this minion wave. EDG looking to take down this bot lane outer turret. Mountain's waiting in the wings to try and find his way through. Albus, decent silence field. As he lands some star calls there as well.
And just look at the level difference here between Deft and On. Because of that roam, he's down 2 levels. So calling is available for Deft, and because of that, Mountain has to be down here helping to protect them, because they are definitely in a lot of trouble right now, just off the XP disadvantage.
And with that tower so low already in EDG's favor, the culling can come out on the next minion wave that comes through, push it back. They're going to be able to take it down. You can see AHQ going to bail out of that situation as quickly as possible, because Ziv is on the top side. He can't help out down there with the equalizer to push it back like he did last time either. So AHQ will inevitably give up the lead over to EDG from that tower going down, but EDG at least are you know, able to secure as well their own jungle from this too.
Yeah, very cute was Mouse coming down, leashing for Pawn, making sure that Clearlove didn't have to show himself around anywhere as Ziv was trying to poke his head in. Def continues to farm here as well, but EDG have done well to try and neutralize, and they will be able to get that outer turret on the bottom side of the map, get ahead in gold once again. But AHQ, I mean, it's once again just a square game after what was a nightmare start.
So we were talking about Deft pushing this out with the culling. What he's doing is punishing AHQ a little bit longer, because Arn can't come to this bot side to farm. There's almost no point until it pushes past the turret. And Rumble is so far pushed up top that there's no wave to secure there either. So it's a dangerous game for AHQ to try and farm this one out. If EDG actually go aggressive on the tower here, Deft can push up, just trying to push him back. And EDG will get the tower in eventually.
Yeah, trying to deny as many minions as possible. And of course, AHQ knew that there was no vision available for EDG. They do have very good bot side vision control. You can see those 4 pink wards sort of lining the river and up towards their blue buff. So defensive play out of AHQ, but EDG just look to be playing their game, and they know that they just have so much control in a micro setting in this game. They've already demonstrated that.
Yeah, they certainly do, and also the importance of Def getting ahead. He is the guy where all this gold is actually focused for EDG. He's a lot up, and it's okay that Poppy is behind as long as Def is going to be strong, because he's the guy that a lot of the damage has to come out of. They have this Pawn playing Karma in the mid lane. They have the Nami, so they have people to buff up and protect the Lucian. And if Def gets strong enough, he can just go nuts in these team fights, and he's still 2 levels up on, which is pretty incredible 10 minutes in.
Almost has his Ghostblade completed as well, as those Berserker's Greaves look to be coming in next. That is a 20 CS lead, but Arn looks to be trying to close it, holding that wave over his side of the map, and Mountain waiting in this Dragon Pit. See what AHQ are thinking of.
It's a really good thing for EDG, you know, to have this Lucian so far ahead, in the sense that post 30 minutes, they're going to rely on him for a lot of the damages you're talking about.
Oh, has to use the Ragnarok, but good timing to make sure that Aqua Prison didn't get any stun time. Well, that's a big cooldown, and now EDG with an option. They're heading towards that dragon.
Oh, they're heading for Arn right now. You can see how far Deft and Mako are going aggressive.
Ziv takes a Q from Mouse, but Mouse is more than fine. I mean, this is a wave pushing towards him. We'll just be able to hang out underneath this turret. On, tethers up Chowie one more time. Ooh. Man, that Mantrid Q damage is dumb. Unable to get the kill, though.
It definitely does.
It's really dumb.
But he has Soraka, can heal him right back up.
Oh, no.
So the mobile ambulance.
Oh dear. Well, not quite level 6, so no global presence from that Soraka at this point.
Here
Mouse goes
Clear
aggressive on
Love.
Ziv.
Looking for the heroic
Just way
charge.
too
Mouse
far
good slow as Clearlove pushes him back. Look at that Sheen charge as Ziv doesn't get stunned, but he does get killed. And Clearlove's going to get that one. Ooh, Enchanted Crystal Arrow from the mid lane. That was exciting, but Pawn doesn't quite find his life here as he flashes out of the way. The bomb! Delayed death, but death nonetheless as Pawn falls down. Mountain may fall as well. It's heroic charge. Good ultimate to come down onto the Olaf, but is he too far away? Yes, he is. He's most certainly dead as Deft grabs the kill.
Grabs the kill from the mid lane play. AHQ pushing up too far in 2 lanes. Ziv had been so far pushed up for the last 4 minutes or so in this game, constantly pushing on that top side, trying to just get everything that he can in the form of map control, but it was too far up without the right vision control. He wasn't able to back away despite, you know, Mao's kind of going aggressive a little early. Clearlove just charges in, gets himself into the fray, and then mid lane AHQ, Mountain overextends as well.
Yeah, the thing I do like about this situation is the fact that it's Clearlove getting ahead as well, and we know that Hecarim's, ever since he's been a top laner, is a carry champion. He's building the Trinity Force. He's going to get to that spike earlier than normal, and Clearlove is a player that's used to getting gold. If he can get it, he's more than happy to transition that into advantages. So Mouse not necessarily farming all that well, or Pawn being behind, isn't a problem, because Clearlove and Deft are able to take over this game. This team has always been multifaceted in how they manage to transition gold from whatever they get in the early game.
Yeah, and then nice little freeze kind of set up here by Deft. He's just trying to starve as much farm away from On as he can because this Ashe is already behind and is going to be working towards that Essence Reaver. When he just has those components and Deft has that Ghost Blade, he's so much stronger at this point. So
flaunting it on the bottom side of the map right now. Leandri's Torment is done by Ziv in response to the Spirit Visage that Mouse has been able to complete those. So first items coming in for the top laners.
On's actually looking for Pawn here in the mid lane. Let's see if he can hit the arrow. There goes
Pawn. The Inspire's there for the shield, but look at the bomb damage. The silence field from Albus as well. I mean, there was no flash, but he's definitely not getting out of that one.
And that's exactly what you need to do as On in this situation. He can't match up against the Deft, but he's a playmaking AD carry. Goes mid lane, gets a second kill onto Pawn. Really well done.
Beautiful, you know, balancing of the crowd control there, gets the silence at the end of it as well, just to be able to make sure Pawn can't get himself away, can't survive for long enough. So AHQ, good playmaking from the middle lane. Bot lane was shoved up in response from EDG, which now On is going to go over and absorb for himself. But look at that CS difference. 40 CS down already.
And unfortunately, the wave had already bounced, so he already missed out on a lot of that farm, and it is going to push right back to Deft, which means Deft is going to get even farther behind. But AHQ, honestly, a pretty good early game here. It's 15 minutes in. The game is incredibly close.
Yeah, exactly right. There's nothing really that's a problem for AHQ if you're looking for definitive leads. And EDG, they do have the tools to create a victory, but we saw yesterday that this is their statement game. They need to get themselves back into the right headspace right here.
The only problem really is just On. He needs to be able to catch up because this guy needs to be relevant. I don't think that the Rumble and the Olaf later in the game are going to be able to take down Deft very easily with the protection that he has from Nami, the shields from Pawn and Mouse even. So he has a lot of peel, and if they don't have high physical damage coming in from On as well, I'm not sure that they're going to be able to deal well with Deft in the team fighting stage.
Going to be real tough.
Yeah, and having to deal with Clearlove at the same time as well, the helicopter horse flying in over the top.
Well, it is amazing at this point. I guess it's not,
yeah.
Unfortunately, not at this World Championship, but for AHQ, they are looking with a drone, just gets it over there.
Counts it in, Deft throws out the culling like you were talking about before, deals with that minion wave. Tycaller's Blessing helps out as well, as Mountain is hanging around but can't really break anything open.
Chowi's roaming down, or at least was starting to, but was spotted on a ward. Top side, though, Clearlove goes aggressive into the enemy jungle as well, pushing Ziv back. But AHQ, heavy focus on this bottom lane tower.
They know exactly what they want. Down to half health already, as Deft and Mako still thinking about trying to get something done. Mountain tanks up a couple of the turret shots.
I mean, Mouse is almost here as well, so they could look to try to have a fight. Speaking of Mouse, he really has kind of kept pretty close as far as the CS lead. Yes, it is 20 plus, but it's not a devastating lead. It's not like anything like what happened yesterday for them. So he has kind of done his job. He's in a bit of a rough matchup. He's playing a defensive champion, and he's going to be more than strong enough to be relevant in these team fights.
He just wants to be a linebacker, right? So Poppy is always going to do Poppy things no matter what you do. So Mouse, thankfully, not too worried. We saw Darshan do a very similar thing day one in the first game. Yeah. That Poppy was fantastic, and we'll see whether Mouse is going to be able to live up to that.
Don't remind me. Day one, I want out of my memory.
AHQ, though, going to grab that first dragon of the game, and we'll be able to have that working for them. It's going to be really nice, especially for a champion like Soraka, who can stand super far back and sometimes avoid getting hit by those enemy champions. Keep that regen coming, especially it's extra nice for Soraka because you're spending both health and mana all the time, so you're able to kind of double dip on that dragon.
Yeah, one thing I do like about EDG's composition, I guess, against Albus on this Soraka is the fact that they have heaps to commit. Like, if they want to go in, they are going to go in, and they ain't coming out until they've killed everyone or died. So with Poppy and the Hecarim there, we'll see whether that's going to be enough to nullify all of that staying power that Soraka provides.
Kalilov's going to grab the Rift Herald buff then. Not one we often see, but obviously will charge up and give him that extra damage that he's going to want.
Chinese thing as well. I mean, giving the Rift Herald over to the jungler is something that RNG is definitely proponent of.
I was going to say, typically MLXG just goes no mine a third of the time.
Most things, I think.
To most things around the map. Well, I guess Uzi's the one going mine with all the support, with all the gold on that team. But at this point, AHQ wants to say mine to all of the territory around the river, but EDG are there, taking control of it. There's 3 pink wards, good surround around that top side, keeping Deft safe.
Yeah, exactly. They're setting up such good vision control on this top side. Definitely makes it a scary world out there for AHQ. As On's just trying his best to wave clear. He knows he has no business in a straight-up fight at this point against Lucian, so he's really relegated to wave clear duty. But we are going to see Mountain and Chawi cheating up towards that top side a little bit, and we'll see if they can clear out some of this vision.
Yeah, they're right on top of all of that vision.
On's coming down too, though.
Yeah, exactly right. We've got to collapse. As you know, the speed coming out of Clearlove is something that they really have to stay aware of, because he can cover so much distance, especially with Inspire help out of Pawn. Clears out those minion waves. You can see it's a Merc Treads coming out of the Karma. I like that, because he doesn't have cleanse, and it's getting arrows to the head.
Just wants to stay a little safer with that arrow flying across the map. And from what was a game that started with a trade at level 1, with everybody blowing summoners, we have slowed down a little on the pacing here. AHQ have been making perhaps the smarter moves when you look at the objective plays that they've made, the few kills that have happened since from that arrow setup, and, you know, a couple of the plays onto the dragon as well. So AHQ favor this slower pace. We saw that in their series against the Flash Wolves. We've seen it multiple times out of AHQ.
Really creative as well, like out of what they decided to do in order to deal with EDG's strength.
And LMS as a region is generally pretty happy playing it slow, but ooh, with Dalty there.
Yeah, not a great one as Mouse just moves casually to the side. Mountain and Ziv say, I hope they weren't watching.
And it's not really the best feeling when you're Rumble, who you put all this emphasis on getting ahead, is actually starting to lose out on these trades against the Poppy, and that's the stage that we have kind of gotten to.
And at this point, you can see the topside Deft hasn't been able to get too much more. I mean, if we're, you know, shouting out about something, there's a 10 CS lead that's been closed, or at least by 10. It's now only 30 in the 80 carry, so more small victories.
Yeah, well, every closing of the gap is a good one, Stress. But Trinity Force is done for Clearlove, so that is a big deal. Big power spike for the Hecarim. Oh, dear. Barmy Cinder done for Mouse as well, building towards his Sunfire Cape. Cheeky little cloth armor there as well, augmenting what he already had. You can see Pawn looks like he's going towards the Rylai's Crystal Scepter, just all, unless it's a Death Cap.
I would guess a Death Cap. Death Cap so second on the Karma is
just
very
so used
common.
to Relinomicon Rylai's. Just you see those items, you're like, yep, this is an easy one.
Yeah, and it's just something that works very well with the supportive style because it's buffing up your shields, and the pure AP that you're getting from that is really, really strong. That's part of the strength of this mid lane Karma, because the shields are just absolutely massive. You have high amounts of CDR, and it allows a champion like Deft on this Lucian to be even more aggressive and more agile than he would otherwise be.
But at the same time as hell, it's not pure utility. It's not the Ardent Sensor build that we've seen, which is just, I don't want to do anything in this game. This is Pawn saying, I want a little more damage from Accuse as well, trying to get anything that he can. So EDG certainly wanting to get more damage, different sources coming out here, but they haven't got too much in the last few minutes. Still farming up, still keeping themselves ahead in CS when it comes to the AD carry, but they're behind in the other lanes.
Oh, there's another attack from Mouse, trying to throw down with Ziv. Nice overpowers. Crystal Arrow. Mako just sidesteps it, utilizing his passive for the extra movement speed. Nicely done.
Really nicely done there by Mako, avoiding what probably would have been a sure death on that squishy Nami. But both these teams, obviously, with a lot of confidence moving forward in this game, no one feeling any pressure, any rush to try to get into these team fights, to try to force anything. And they're both really confident. They're controlling vision, and that's mostly what this is a battle of at this point. Moving up your ward lines, denying your opponent's vision, and trying to look for these picks, especially for AHQ on Wet Essence Reaver. He's going to be building into quite a bit of CDR, and he's going to be looking for these picks.
Oh, he's going to eat a calling as well as the flash, heal, and run towards Albus. The ambulance eventually
coming
gets
in.
there, but Mountain's burning down. He goes clear up. The exhaust is there. Mountain dies. Death grabs the kill, and EDG turn it on.
EDG pull the trigger, they see an opportunity, and Def pounces on. He forces him back, the TP comes in, they're gonna get a turret, a couple kills, and will they look towards Baron? It looks like they might just go straight forward and try to at least bait here. No, they want to go for it, TP coming in.
Mouse is gonna be here, the Baron has been started. EDG, very famous for this, do like to go for the very early Barons, but Shawi, he knows exactly what's going on. Ziv's making his way over, Equalizer could be huge at the 22-minute mark, but this Baron's falling lower and lower. Aqua Prison goes wide. Good placement on the Equalizer. There's the man. Oh my goodness, the ultimate gets Joey out of there. Can they actually secure it? And they do. Clearlove grabs the Baron, and now they're looking to get themselves out. EDG, decisive play. Mouse tanks himself up the arrow, but Murph treads and a flash will get him out of there. Joey, he's so aggressive, but he can't find it. Picks up his own bomb, throws another one because he's upset, and AHQ cannot find a thing.
Just beautiful by EDG. They all stay alive, all are able to escape as a team, and they pick up the Baron, which is going to be massive for them in taking out some of these extra turrets.
I was about to draw comparisons between this game and H2K versus AHQ, where there was no pressure coming out from AHQ's opponents, but AHQ now are able to take the retreat here, but the Baron buff is on EDG. They make the explosive play up in the top lane, all from that culling, and EDG are in full control.
Yeah, Rumble ulti is down. Some of the key ultimates are missing for AHQ, so I don't know if they even dare to try to defend this turret. EDG is pushing very aggressively here.
They can't get very close to this turret as well. They know the range that EDG have if they do want to pull the trigger, the speed that Clearlove can come at them with. And EDG now own this bottom side jungle. It looks like they were just warming up for 20 minutes. Now they take a Baron and take over the game.
Yeah, they're just going to go right around the horn, now down to the bot lane. They had the minion waves prep, going to be able to pick up a couple turrets here, and really such an explosion of gold. Compare the items on the AD carries here. Death is going to be a monster.
And we were right, Azael. It was Aurelia's Crystal Scepter that Pawn picked up, so we should have committed to it. Unfortunately, we didn't. But still there. At least we mentioned the option. But now EDG moving themselves forward. Deft relentlessly pursues into an undertow, which ain't great.
EDG are not about to sit back, and that is the struggle for AHQ. They do have the ultimates available, but not if they whiff.
Could be a go button. Both bombs are down here as well. Mouse soaks up one of them.
One thing going for AHQ, top lane is building up a very big wave and is going to be pushing towards them. Looks like EDG is content with what they've gotten, at least so far. We'll move back, pick up the dragon.
Yeah, grab themselves that dragon. We'll see who EDG sends to the top lane to soak up that minion wave. You can see Mouse has actually pulled himself back in this matchup as well. Now, Pawn throwing out more poke onto Ziv. Has to get out of the Mantrid section.
Oh, Mountain looking to go in.
Yeah, can he actually get the flank is the question though, as Clearlove Mountain just facing off 1v1. Another culling is Deft. Gets all of the shields, all of the heals from that ebb and flow as well out of Mako. Clearlove trying to bait AHQ in with a bit of flair there.
Again, EDG just keeping the pressure up with this Baron buff. Mouse winds up the hammer, but gets silenced.
Going down. The Equalizer. Mountain finds his way back in. Mako's the focus as Mountain will go down. Shot down comes in onto Deft, and now EDG have to run away. The speed up from Pawn, but can Ziv get the slowdown?
Ash ult is coming back up. They could look to chase this if they can close the gap, but doesn't look like it. Mountain wants to go. He speeds up. Clearlove.
He was trying to empower recall. There's the arrow. Clearlove. Buddy. The max range undertow. Clearlove still pretty fast. The undertow is converted by Clearlove. The last one can't find it. You do not deserve to live there, buddy.
That was so well played by AHQ, though. Watch them. They pull the trigger here. The silence field goes down. Beautiful rumble ulti. Deft way too far up there. Everyone pounces. Ziv flashes forward onto him. Total commitment to take down the ED carry, as they know that it's the linchpin of the EDG squad.
And the second phase of this may not have resulted in further kills for AHQ, but it's pushing EDG so far back, burning the time on that Baron buff. You saw Clearlove trying to take a risky recall, ends up getting caught by Mountain. EDG now have had their Baron buff expired, and we're back into a phase where EDG are going to have to look to make a play if they want to try and close this one out. The gap is not too far between EDG and AHQ right now that they can just look to close it out in a linear fashion.
Yeah, and the thing is as well is that you might look at this and say AHQ weren't able to pick anything up off the back of that, but you have to remember the momentum that EDG had moving into that. Of course, the Baron buff was going to expire anyway, but now as well, EDG know that they cannot make a greedy play like that one on the bottom side of the map.
And AHQ, they only lost one turret to that Baron, so that was honestly really well done. Even just defending those objectives very aggressively, knowing their limits. Very impressive stuff from AHQ, and Zilean is really going to be strong with this composition, with the speed ups, with that revive, and
Mouse.
EDG's Mouse pretty far up.
In a lot of trouble. That flash was so well placed. His equalizer maybe a little bit too early, as now EDG looking for more pressure in the mid lane. Chowie gets culled. But Deft can't find him with the last few bullets. Mountain, wants to find something, but doesn't get the undertow. EDG just getting shields out of everywhere, on mostly, as Arn getting some damage back, but AHQ stifle the aggression.
It's very difficult, though, for EDG to break the 4-man pack from AHQ. And if Ziv is there, it's even more difficult to break the 5-man, because that equalizer will cut EDG off. Without the right engage from Clearlove, either from the side or Mao's getting the right disengage with the hammer, gonna be a tough one.
Yeah, EDG is just really struggling to siege here because Lucian's low range, and even with that protection, yes, you land some poke great from the Karma, but then we have a Soraka to heal that right back up with the Ocean Dragon, and they have such good wave clear from Mountain, from Ziv, from On. Like really all across the board, these are fantastic wave clear champions for their position, so they're doing such a good job stalling it out, and it just feels like EDG is getting a little bit impatient, getting too aggressive in the bot lane there, moving forward, and that's something that AHQ is always going to try to capitalize on.
And while right now On is significantly far behind Deft, you cannot overlook that difference. It is going to kind of tilt away from EDG when it comes to the AD carry differences, because On should get a lot of farm. This build Deft is going for, the Black Cleaver build, isn't a particularly strong late game build against tanks, and there's a lot of regenerative healing coming out from Albus as well. So if Deft falls like we saw earlier, there's going to be a lack of damage coming out from EDG.
And I'd also say, yes, he is still far ahead, but at this point in the game, proportionally, he's not nearly as ahead as he was in the early game. Yes, he's up 1,000 gold or a little bit over that, but it's not the end of the world here, because On is getting to a point where he's getting pretty relevant. He's picked up his second item, has the Hurricane finally, which is going to mean he's going to get a lot of CDR from that Essence Reaver, and he's working towards his third item. Deft is obviously stronger at this point in the game, but On is playing and embracing a supportive role, and he's doing it well.
And that's the bit we can't overlook. The engages that are coming out from On as well. Hasn't it been 100%, but you miss every arrow you don't shoot out.
Exactly right.
Certainly has hit a couple that have been real pivotal. So for On, it's actually been a pretty solid performance considering how the laning phase went.
And a lot of it comes down to where EDG are picking fights as well. I mean, if they pick a fight in a corridor, it doesn't matter how far behind On is, because Deft will get killed. If he's trying to do damage, he's going to be caught by either a double bomb, stand in an equalizer, something like that. AHQ have so many tools in these tight choke points. EDG need to start respecting it.
They definitely do, but at the same time, one bad engage here by AHQ, and Deft will be able to tear them apart because he has so much support from his team. And it's really a delicate balance here, which is leading me to believe that a lot of the game may end up being decided around Baron, because EDG is just struggling to actually finish this out.
There's the ultimate as Ziv has to flash himself out. The ult comes in from Clearlove, and Ziv gets healed. Oh my goodness, can they turn this one around? The Wish really turning it on its head. EDG transition it into an inner turret, but they can't get the kill.
Finally cracked that tower. Keep in mind, that was the tower that EDG were trying to push with the Baron buff. They made the play onto Dragon while holding Pawn up in the bot lane, trying to hold the tower with the Baroned up minions for a long time, nearly 6 minutes ago.
There are a lot of oceans this game.
Finally get it, yeah, exactly. Just
Third one coming in. Now going to take it down, EDG. Take that one up. Elder Dragon is going to be the next one, so not going to see anything but ocean this time around.
well, EDG, if they do get the Elder, are going to regen after fight so incredibly quickly with 2 plus the Elder. But speaking of regeneration, or at least like kind of getting yourself back into the swing of things, Choey hasn't looked out of place here from AHQ.
No.
Considering this is his first professional game in 6 months against China's #1. Credit to him on this performance.
Not only has he not looked out of place, he's actually playing incredibly well for the team. I think he's been their best performer so far in this game against EDG, and it just really speaks to how hard he's practicing and his work ethic that we've heard so much about. This guy is a real grinder. He works extremely hard, and that hard work is really showing here.
Yeah, and it's also really obvious when you see a Zilean that isn't necessarily working out. The ultimate is something that is so important to get on exactly the right targets. The double bombs in team fights. The fact that it was able to take down Deft by holding onto that cooldown, making sure that it was guaranteed. Really looking fantastic for Choey.
Yeah, he's been on point with his ultimates, and it's also, with this build the Deft is going, especially now because he's picked up a Hex Drinker, even more kind of defensive, it can be very tough to take down someone like Olaf, but Ziv's in trouble.
And one more time, Clear Love and Mouse, the Death Squad, are going to be able to take it, and the Equalizer doesn't do anything. Mako is going to be the trade in the mid lane. Now on, yeah, you hit the arrow and then it's fine.
But look at what they've sacrificed bottom side. The distance here that they've got to run, AHQ will have to come back to the bot lane, which means they can't actually capitalize. It's a trade 1-for-1 on the kills. AHQ don't get any objectives from it, and EDG will be okay with that for now.
Yeah, Clear Love manning the jungle here on the bottom side as well. As you could see, Mouse is standing on top of a ward, but he's going to be fine.
And here is On setting up for that arrow, nails it. Would have loved to get Deft there, was very close to it, but will take the secondary prize of Mako.
So close, and honestly, I'm glad to see Anne just firing out those arrows when it is necessary. We see so many Ashe players just sit back and hold the ult and just go, oh, well, we could use it, but do we really want to trade for 1 kill? Smart play out of AHQ, knowing they had to get something from that situation.
Yeah, consistently going for that, you're going to be rewarded. You will get those eventually, and now it's EDG sieging up here in the mid lane once again, but good wave clear from Choey.
Yeah, and Mountain actually... Whoa! Okay, that's...
He's got his Nikes on.
That is a Viking on steroids, ladies and gentlemen. And that is very, very scary. His legs move inhumanly fast, as now there's a fight towards the bottom side of the map, potentially, between both Mouse and Ziv.
They're looking to set that up once again, and Ziv really needs help getting some more vision to protect himself from Clear Love and this constant gank that they're moving for.
Oh, Mountain actually takes a fair bit of damage. Remember, there's a Soraka to help heal him back up again. AHQ just disengage. They lose themselves a blue buff, but that isn't really too much of a problem here for this team.
No.
Areas like that, though, in the jungle, the small choke points favor AHQ in these fights. The equalizer, the double bomb that can come out from Choey, the arrow, all of these are so much easier to hit, but EDG want to draw this down into the bottom lane, into the open ground where Ziv doesn't have the comfort of being able to land a perfect equalizer every single time, but he's not falling for it this time, Azael. He's backed away to his tower.
And that's what he needs to do. He just needs to wave clear at his turret because there's not really any reason for him to be out there. He's not going to be able to bully the Poppy in that 1v1 matchup, and just needs to kind of respect that.
Well, Mountain trying to clear out vision. Pink Ward will go, though. Deft and Mako secure themselves that. Ziv hanging around, does, of course, have the equalizer back up. Enchanted Crystal Arrow back up as well. AHQ have options. As you can see, Infinity Edge has just been completed by Arn on top of the Void Staff here for Ziv. So AHQ, if there's ever a power spike in items, it would be right now.
Yeah, these are really key items now coming in, and that Void Staff especially, dealing with some of these frontliners, Mouse and Clear Love, that Ziv has been fighting up against. He's going to be very strong, and even looking to Choey, he's completed a lot of his major items. So this game is getting to the point where it's going to be very explosive when we do have a fight, and one fight can decide the game this late into it.
And again, though, EDG are having to play a little safer. They haven't been able to secure deep vision control yet on AHQ's jungle. You can see solid line of pink wards. 3 scattered through the entrances to AHQ's top side. Jungle denies EDG's ability to play around Baron significantly right now. There's no way of getting the wards down, so no way of getting the bait. And unless EDG can somehow make a play to push in, it's not really worth it for them to try and fight over it now. They need to try and catch somebody out somehow, but the tools just aren't there without going all in.
And On hanging around here constantly, has that rank 3 ultimate now, can be looking for that. The cooldown is going to be very short at this point, and he will keep fishing for these arrows. We'll see if he can come up with a key target, because even looking at someone like Deft, he doesn't have a QSS, and he's very likely not ever going to be building one.
Well, we'll see whether he decides to omit extra armor penetration from the build. But it just looks like AHQ, I mean, they have the Enchanted Crystal Arrow. They have a lot of opportunities to catch EDG out. What is EDG's method? How do they go about cracking AHQ right now? Because it looks like they're searching and can't find anything.
To me, they're just not really doing the due diligence on setting up vision. They need to look for fights around objectives, around the Baron, because they're struggling.
That culling can't be healed that quickly, but misses a couple of the bullets.
And this is exactly what EDG just did as you were talking about it, Azale.
They're going straight on the Baron.
They finally get some of those pink wards away, but they haven't secured the vision. All they know is that AHQ can't control it for themselves. They back away from it. But again, now we're in a situation where EDG have to do exactly the same thing for a second time. They have to remove those pink wards, get wards of their own, and get that territorial line pushed all the way back in AHQ's jungle.
And speaking of vision, I mean, that hawk shot will always be there for Arn. So it's not like you can just clear out vision and then they'll have no idea with no option. I mean, you can't count the blue trinkets because Arn will always have that one. It's like you have to count drones as well that are skirting over the top of you.
Yeah, you certainly do, but with the Elder Dragon spawning, this does open up a secondary major objective, right? You can split the map, there can be trades, and obviously On is worried about that, shooting over his E, checking out, making sure that that Elder was not being taken.
And there's the last Whisper picked up as well, so Arn very strong on this Ashe, despite being 100 CS down.
I was going to say, very rarely does somebody who's getting Flame Horizon have impact in a game. Generally not the case. Very close to it. Hasn't ticked over 100. I've been keeping my eyes on it, trying to just see when it goes. But still, with the engage, with the vision control, it's enough to slow EDG down, and then not able to capitalize. Arrow comes out again.
Yeah, Pawn's going to sidestep. The immediate culling in response. R buttons exchanged as Deft going very far forward, but does dodge all of the abilities. EDG, we know that they are hungry. They are champing at the bit to try and kill AHQ, but they're just playing so protective, so safe. Non-committal CC flying out.
Yeah, a bit of a poor shot there, though, by On. He could have just shot it straight down the corridor and probably at least got someone. But EDG is on the Elder, and it does not seem to get there. Aware of
drone. 3,000 health now. Yeah, this is just going to go down. The Baron is looking to be traded, but can they actually kill it in time is the question.
No, this is way too dangerous, especially with the Elder buff on their opponents. If they take a fight now, it could be devastating for them. The HQ needs to avoid a fight at this point.
Clearlove is going to be super fast. There's the tidal wave. Everyone's trying to flash with there. The knockups. In goes the horse. Albus is going to get targeted. The Soraka trying to be dealt with. The ultimate has been used on him, but he's out of position. Pawn will grab the kill now. AHQ, they're going to get chased down. They're going to get corralled, or can they turn it around is the question. Looks like EDG not going to fully commit.
AHQ got up and out of the danger zone for that fight. And EDG, they're going for Baron. They are fairly low here, but no ultimates are available that are significant. Apart from Arn's, he has the arrow available. The health bars are too high now, though. EDG
needs to land
that regeneration from the Ocean Drake as well here. If Chowie can get a good stun, maybe it's enough.
Yep, Deft is going to secure it. Mountain now in trouble. He gets stunned up, bubble destroyed. Arrow's going to go wide. Ziv trying to deal with Deft, but he can't. As now Mountain is going to get taken down. There's no ultimate from Chowie. Arn and the man himself are going to just try and run towards the base with Albus just respawning.
AHQ had done such a good job the whole game, and then they take a fight into the Elder. Complete lapse of judgment. And look at the res timers. Over 40 seconds on Ziv and Mount. This is so dangerous.
Buddies, they're looking for Chowie. Another ultimate destroyed as the Zillion. Pop goes the Ashe, and Albus is running away. EDG using that Baron, take down an inner turret, inhibitor turret going to fall, and that was the decisive play we were looking for.
Chowie didn't have his ultimate available for either himself or on, and EDG are going to look to take this game.
And looking so much better while they do it as well. Stresses Deft, flashes the flare. They'll take down the second Nexus turret. EDG want to dive some fountains as the Nexus falls. And that is going to be that. EDG now 1-1 here at Worlds 2016.
And what a must-win game this was for EDG. Only 2 games in. A bit of an embarrassing performance yesterday, but firing right back with a great start in this game. It slowed down against AHQ, but enough in the end was there for EDG to be able to close it out and pick up their first win at Worlds.
And that big grin on Mouse's face is the most important part about this as well, because he can't have been feeling good after their game one, but now the confidence could be coming back. Clearlove as well, big grin on his face as these two very close teams are going to shake hands. And EDG, you can see the relief in the eyes of these players.
And EDG does deserve the credit for capitalizing on AHQ's mistake, but what a mistake it was. Such a long game, so patient from AHQ the whole way through, and then just the lapse in judgment to fight into a team that has the Elder Dragon was what completely cost them the game, and it's a little bit tough to swallow, I'm sure, for AHQ.
Exactly. At first, it didn't look all that bad for AHQ. They only lost one, but the continuing fight really ended up going against them. You know, we were talking to Clement a lot about these two teams, the history between each other. In AHQ's words, they feel like they're only 10 steps behind now. Previously, it was 20 steps behind EDG. And I think you have to say the same thing. You look at this group, AHQ still are showing that they're contenders here. A good performance yesterday. Didn't look out of it today. This group is still anybody's, really.
Yeah, and going into this tournament as well, we have to sort of put the INTZ game on the wayside just for a moment, Don't want to forget it because it was a fantastic game. But EDG were coming into this tournament looking incredibly strong. 16-0. Yeah. These guys were big contenders to take this whole tournament down. AHQ looked fantastic in their first game against H2K when they took them down. And in that game as well, their ability to pivot and use creativity to get back into a game was beautiful to watch.
And I've got to say, AHQ, honestly, you know, this game was extremely close. It could have been theirs very easily, I think, with a couple different decisions. And you know, even with that horrible level one, the bot lane disadvantage, they played really intelligently around it. They had some great adaptations. You know, the move to 5-man topside, where they're actually able to take first turret when that behind and then defend bottom turret as well, was really, really, really impressive. I thought that was so nice. And EDG, they look vulnerable, to be honest. I mean, they lost yesterday, and they could have easily lost today.
They most certainly did. But with EDG's first win on the board, we're going to check in with Shox, who's joined by Clearlove.
Thank you very much, guys. Indeed, joined by Clearlove after that victory for EDG. And a lot of fans, as always. And the first thing I have to ask Clearlove is I saw that you were a lot happier after that win that yesterday. Can you tell me how important it was to get that first win on the board here at Worlds?
经过你们昨天比赛之后呢，今天这场首胜嘛，算是，你觉得这场比赛的胜利对你们意义有多大呢？
昨天就经历了个首败嘛，然后就是队员们还有教练们都意识到自己的一些想法上面的问题，然后今天我们经过讨论之后，今天就是在阵容上面选取做得很好，所以说我觉得就是比赛还是在自己的节奏之内吧，然后赢下比赛肯定是很开心的。
So today is our first win. After the loss yesterday, we went back and we rethought about our whole process and thinking strategy. And we came up with a better team comp today and also a better strategy today. And everyone really played to their own rhythm. That's how we won today.
And it looked a lot better. We also saw you going for that Hecarim, and the LPL seems to be the only region that really prioritizes that Hecarim pick. Can you explain to us why that is?
我们现在世界上看到的，只有 LPL 的赛区是真的是想要看到人马就一定会选人马的。你能解释一下为什么吗？
因为人马这个英雄的话，他的gank成功率特别高，然后他的开团手段也是有的，就在某些阵容里面是可以用的。
So for us, our thought process is that Hecarim is very good at ganking, and his success rate in ganking is super strong. It does only work for certain team comps, and for us, it did work, so we chose him.
It definitely worked today, and it's a very important win. You guys are one of the favorites to win the entire tournament. You had a fantastic year in the LPL, and you were always talking about how you definitely don't want to get knocked out in quarterfinals. Again, can you tell me about your expectations for you personally and as a team this World Championship for EDG?
今年是你 LPL 赛季打得最好的一次成绩嘛？然后你也经常在采访中会提到说想要打破8强这么一个诅咒嘛？所以呢，你接下来你觉得怎么能够打破这个诅咒，然后做些什么样的准备呢？
因为现在就是我们队伍都意识到了自己的问题，我觉得就是现在只要我们的想法改变了，我们还是是一个很强的队伍。所以说目标的话，肯定是我自己的目标就是先度过8强，然后打好每一场比赛，就是我想做的事情。
So for us, our main goal right now is to definitely go past quarterfinals this time. I do think that we are a very strong team. We realize we had some problems, so we're trying to fix those problems and do as best as we can.
Okay, we will see what happens. You have the support of a lot of EDG fans, as always. Thank you very much, Clear Love, and thank you very much, Lexi, for assisting in the translation after you guys at the analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Shocks. EDG and LPL fans will be very relieved to have that win in the book, although it did not come easily for them. Let's work our way through this game because there's plenty to discuss, starting with Champion Select here. So as we bring that up, I want to get you guys' thoughts on the two team comps drafted by both of these teams.
Well, if you look at the bottom lane, Ash's first pick really early by AHQ quite a lot of the times. They think this is Ann's safest champion in lane. He does have a lot of mistakes on other champions. With Ash, you get the vision control. And they also, this is the first time that Albus has picked Soraka. So you definitely can see the mentality. We don't want EDG's bot lane to win. Now, that was a good thought, but the level 1 definitely just threw that out the window.
We had some real level 1 craziness, but with these team comps that were locked in by both teams, talk to me stylistically how we expect them to play given or within the game.
Right, so we have on one side with EDG a composition that is very, very strong in the mid game. You know, you hit 24s on Hecarim, you get 1 or 2 items on Lucian, the armor penetration items, Ghost Blade and Black Cleaver, and you just buff up this Lucian and you send him in with the Hecarim, and you actually have like an insanely strong composition that can take down almost everything in the mid game, where on the side of AHQ you have much more late game focus. You know, Soraka is a great late game teamfighter, Zillion protecting the AD carry, Ashe just stacking up multiple items. But it's a composition from AHQ that is very hard to play because it's very hard to get to that late game. And especially, obviously, when you mess up level 1, you lose your flash, and you didn't get ganked later by Clearlove, who was all over the map in the early game.
Yeah, and let's not forget the most important part of the conversation is that Mouse is playing a tank. Back in very comfortable territory where he's, you know, just able to farm up. And late game, he was an absolute monster. I mean, there was no one that could really take him down. So even if AHQ got there, it was still hard to execute against the Hecarim, against the Poppy, that just dive your backline over and over again.
Yeah, it's kind of a game where you should get these really long team fights where it's hard to kill the front line on both sides, especially for AHQ with the multiple tanks you talked about. But I really like to see these kind of comps where so many surprises appear. You know, Ashe first rotation is crazy for most people. Soraka is being played against Zillion for Chowie because it really shows that the meta is not locked yet. It's been a lot of patches. You know, we're very early into this tournament, and it seems like some teams are locked on 1 or 2 picks for each role. I like to see there's multiple ones, especially also down support where we have like 10 viable picks.
Now we talk about this early game strength for EDG, and of course we saw a couple successful early games from Clearlove, definitely pushing them ahead a bit, but it was 22 minutes into the game when they really found themselves a footing here with a kill in the top lane plus a Baron spawn. Walk me through this one a little bit.
Yeah, and EDG had been pressuring so incredibly well, but you felt that the timer was starting to run out. So Deft opens up, you know, forces them out. And after they've forced one member out, it's just the big go button. Teleports come in, Hecarim's diving the backline, and Mountain gets burned down. Albus is so concerned with running away, doesn't even press his R button there. So this was impressive out of EDG. Not because just they execute and how far they go, but the willingness to take Baron afterwards. This is such a ballsy call to all-in commit at this stage of the game, but they kind of had to do it to open up that mid-game for themselves.
Yeah, we'll see the contest here from AHQ come in. Ziv going to throw down the equalizer. I almost would have liked to have seen him be a little bit more gutsy here and walk himself into the Baron pit.
Yeah, I definitely, but we got to give credit to Mako here and his ulti. You know, Tidal Wave's over actually stops 2 members, the Rumble being one of them, for entering the Baron pit. And also, you know, Mousy, a good ulti, knocking Chowie away, so that's kind of the safety net. You know, when you do charge into the pit, you get the ulti from Zillion. That was gone. So EDG under pressure here really executed well. 2 ultis used as defensive tools so you can finish the Baron.
And this is what I do want to give Mouse credit for. He's a very poor laner, and he does fall down time and time
credit
again.
For that one?
No, but in teamfight situations, he does his role. There's a reason that EDG was able to go 16-0. I'm not saying he's a great player, but don't expect him to get solo killed 5 times every single game because he can play teamfights to quite a high level, and they like that about the top laner. That's why they swapped him out for Koro, who's a better laner, but his team fights got very, very sloppy, and that's why they lost against RNG.
Let's not forget here, though, that with those early kills that went to Clearlove and that kind of advantage that they were creating for themselves in the bot lane, AHQ reacted phenomenally in their play around the map to pull off that lane swap and really run EDG around the map.
Yeah, exactly. This is what AHQ has been improving on this entire year. Last year, they were just a team that went in and bullfighted all the time. This year, they're actually really smart on the the macro play. And you can tell what the difference that Chowie makes in the mid lane. They're able to prolong games, get to the late game better, able to wave clear better. And I think this is a team that, for me, has a lot of mental fortitude. That's something I really like about them. They're never afraid to make fights. They're never afraid to take picks. And they're always looking at how they can get back into the game. They're real fighters.
Yeah, and I want to see more Chowie in the mid lane because I actually think they looked better early to mid with him because he was a much better laner than Westor. He didn't fall behind. Yes, okay, he died to one gank, but he had a CS advantage already. Mid game wise, his Zillion was good. A lot of double bombs coming, actually creating a few picks, as you talked about, you know, near the tower, which gave them a bit of a, not an advantage, but at least slowed down EDG. So I actually think he played better than Westor did yesterday, and I want to see more Chowie.
And were it not for that Baron, I really do think that it could have been a very different game for AHQ. I mean, we saw it just a few minutes later, a small stumble by EDG. We've got to call this one into question. 25-30 into the game. Deficio, walk me through the mechanics of this as EDG is attempting to siege the inner turret bot lane.
Yeah, we're only looking at depth in this team fight here, because after Mouse got interrupted, what you need to look at now is how Mouse wants to leave the fight, but Def then says, you know what, I'm going to step in and hit this tower. And that is a massive mistake because you can see Mountain on your left with the red arrow here. He's already in a good position to flank, and Def is the main damage dealer. So when he steps forward and gets caught here by the members of AHQ and the Equalizer, he's now not really able to do anything because now we pause it again, and you can see how Def is making so many mistakes. One, he's now dashing in with a Zillion bomb on his head near multiple members, and two, he can only really hit Mountain in this situation, and Mountain will get a Zillion ulti to help him. So now the main damage dealer of EDG stepped too far forward, got caught out, and had to use 2 defensive dashes, and he could only hit the Olaf with the Zillion ulti. So your damage dealer is gone. That means you're going to lose the team fight, and it is very rare we see this from Def.
Yeah, it certainly is. I mean, Def's positioning is normally what we credit him the most for as games go on. And it's an uncharacteristic mistake. However, you can understand with the amount of pressure on a single carry comp playing around a Karma that, you know, he felt like he had to step up and challenge. Maybe it was just Mouse not on the same page, but this definitely prolonged the game for so long.
Answers were definitely a problem for everybody.
But one thing I do want to credit EDG for is, you know, that game was prolonged, and they made another gutsy call. The Elder Drake is not something that we see played around at all, really, in professional League of Legends at this moment, with Baron alive, and they were able to swap their vision incredibly quickly and take 2 team fights off the back end of it that ultimately won them the game.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is that they goaded AHQ to just go inside and get toasted in that red area over there. I'm overall, even though we went 2 games down, I'm pretty proud for the LMS. We showed a lot of macro game. We're the smallest of the 5 regions.
I agree. I think at the end of the day, there were a lot of great things displayed from the AHQ squad, and we kind of identified a few key moments where the game could have completely flipped on its head.
Yeah, and the reason we showed that replay was kind of to highlight where EDG is still making mistakes, because not only had they had a bit of a slow mid game until they got that Baron picked up, then they make a mistake right after, slows it down again for them. So they have to go really late into the game. You know, we get to 40 minutes before they get that Elder Drake and actually win the last team fight. And EDG in LPL, they've been this powerhouse who would like be super aggressive and really snowball games out of control very quickly. AHQ managed to actually stop that from happening. They played well, but also EDG made some mistakes.
And I do want to go back to the fact that even though we've seen 2 games, I don't think we've really seen how EDG was playing in the LPL, because this time around they're playing very supportive mid laners, which they had gone away from, and Hecarim was a notoriously bad pick for this team. I mean, Clearlove only had a 37% win rate. They nearly lost their set against WE playing that pick in particular before he went back to Rek'Sai and Gragas. So I think this team, they're doing some soul searching. They still are not playing anywhere near their potential, and that's worrying going to the next games because they're not looking their formidable self.
And this is one of those times where I do feel it has warranted us for us to be critical of a player like Deft in that replay that we showed, because he's going to receive player of the game, and that's for the 5-2-3 performance of 39% damage share. We talked about how a lot of this was going to ride on his shoulders and Clearlove's in terms of damage for the team. He shows up and brings home the victory.
I'm actually surprised that's not higher. I mean, yesterday when he's running around with an Aurelia, he gets 36, and he only gets 39 today with a Poppy and a Karma. But he does do very well in the team fights. He's a very good positional AD carry, and his laning phase is beautiful.
He does get a lot of help from his top laner, though, who decides to never deal any damage. So that means his will always go even higher, you know.
I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, Uzi right now, he's a little bit jealous. He wants Luba to do less, so he can actually get back up there as well.
I love it, I love it, I love it. Well, with every team having made their debut here at Worlds 2016, let's take a look at how they all stack up. In Group A, CLG and Rox remain at the top. IMA and SKT both own a share of first place in in Group B. Group C is tied all the way down the list, each team with a 1-1 record. RNG is out ahead of everyone in Group D. Now, tomorrow's schedule, there's still a lot of league to play out, though, and we'll pick up tomorrow with Group A when they get back on stage, starting with Counterlogic Gaming versus Albus Nox Luna. Then we'll see Korea's Best versus Europe's #1 squad, followed by Flash Wolves versus Cloud9. We'll be back on your browsers tomorrow evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, so do not be late. Now, though, it's time to dim the lights here at the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium. Stick around because Worlds Tonight is coming your way in just a few minutes to recap all of the day's action. For myself, the analyst desk, and everyone here covering the 2016 World Championship, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
When the crowd is hyped up for, they want to see a big win for C9, but it's the defending world champions. It's SK Telecom.
I cannot wait for these two teams to do battle. Good flat from Sneaky, gets his way out from under it. Bang though, looking to follow through, and Impact just can't do enough. Overheated and silent, bang with a double from the Ezreal. Meteor stacks back in, but Faker lunges forward for the kill. W going to be thrown down. Oh, they do kill him. And with 4 dead, SK Telecom will take down Cloud9. Elder Dragon low, might get the steals on Maple. Dives in, he wants to find it. Dragon steals it away as a voidless.
We have the tools to play at the highest level. Now it's a question of using these tools. So boys, open up your eyes. Let's do this shit.
Uzi, a double kill. This guy's 6-0-2.
So it's Garrett getting to it again. Right to the Q. What up, over. They've got Cubase. First blood. TSM Ambition. Starts him over the wall. Ambition repels down to his death.
1, 2, 3.
What the? You guys went on.
You guys suck.
You guys went on 2. TSM is going to win their first game at Worlds.
Yeah, gets the knock up on Aria there as well. Flashes out of the way. Good tidal wave, but flashes it. God tier plays. Jankos is going to take down Thomas. Look at the double. My God, he goes over 1A. Perfect timing.
This is a highly anticipated matchup here between EDG and AHQ.
Mountain now in trouble. He gets stunned up, bubble destroyed. Arrow's going to go wide. Ziv trying to deal with death, but he can't. As now Mountain is going to get taken down. And that is going to be that. EDG now 1-1.
Dragon low. Might get the steal as well. Maple dives in. He wants to find it. He got it. Dragon steals it away as a voidless.
And it's Crown now.
Oh, good stuff. A Bjergsen flash kick. Ulti all in, and Sven gets the next one.
And Kobe can't do anything. Another arcane ship. Pop goes the support. That's one kill for Uzi.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Trevor Quickshot Henry, joined tonight by Jake Spawn Tiberi and Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley here in the Bill Graham Civic Auditorium. Names for another edition of Worlds Tonight. Gentlemen, it's been a long day, but was it fun?
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, those last couple of games had me sweating, actually, but another day over of Worlds and more surprises to come.
Got an NA win, so it's always good.
Definitely, and there you can see the results. We got our first look at Group B and the last 4 teams to make their debut here in San Francisco. TSM there took down Samsung Galaxy, but before we get to that, it started with a much anticipated clash between reigning world champions SK Telecom and North America's Cloud9, and it was messy.
Yeah, it certainly was, and I mean, SKT here came out with a vengeance, starting Bengi. Faker was absolutely destroying Jensen in that mid lane. And I think that we're starting to see SKT really ramp up after what was a pretty quiet split for them.
Pretty disrespectful draft, losing lanes across the board, and mistakes as well, don't you think, Azale?
Yeah, this game was over very early. Faker just completely took over Jensen, drafted a losing lane, played poorly in it, and then got completely decimated.
Well, Cloud9 absolutely punished SK Telecom, looking very, very strong. Of course, it's the first game, defending world champions. This is a bit painful to watch. I'm glad the B-roll is finally over. SKT pick up the win. Moving on, we take a look at Flash Wolves versus IMA. This is the 3rd seed from China. They stayed strong, and they came back from a very rough early game, much like their Game 5 victory to make it to Worlds.
Yeah, exactly right. And much like that game, it was a lot of their jungler avoidless setting up the rest of the team to be able to take over the team fighting portion of that game. Flash Wolves, they did have the advantage, but they weren't able to close it out. And when the game gets a little bit scrappy, a little bit messy, you are definitely in IMA territory.
Yeah, definitely was indeed. We also saw Group Z takes the rift once again. TSM made a statement with an extremely dominant win, and this was the team that really fans were expecting yesterday.
Yeah, and this is really what they needed to get their confidence back. Bjergsen and Svenskeren especially went on a rampage this game, working so well together. Bjergsen getting an early solo kill on Crown, and Svenskeren in particular, even their loss yesterday, looked amazing on Lee Sin, and today he stepped it up to another level.
Yeah, it's so fun when a great jungler locks in Lee Sin, and his mid laner is willing to give him that support, and that's exactly what happened in this game. Even Haunted joined the party as the game progressed, and if TSM continues to play at this level, there is a reason that North American fans have hope.
Yeah, well, day 1 was not the level they were expecting. Day 2 is what they want more of. But talking about levels, we closed up the day with Edward Gaming going up against AHQ Esports Club. It was the #1 LPL squad. They tried to redeem themselves from yesterday's upset. And I don't know, I think they won the game in the end, but it wasn't as convincing as I was expecting.
They won the game, but they look vulnerable. They lost yesterday, and they looked very beatable today. It was more about AHQ's mistakes in the late game to me than it was EDG's fantastic play, as AHQ took a horrible fight after Elder Dragon had been taken by EDG and cost themselves the game.
But the Elder Dragon call was good, so you are seeing some of that leadership and experience coming out of Clearlove, but definitely agree, this is a team that after an undefeated split definitely looks wounded.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. EDG, though, go 1-1, bouncing back. We didn't cover all of the games, but as you look at the standings, you'll notice that, of course, INTZ Esports dropped the game. So take a look at that. 1-1s across the board in Group C. Any other surprises for you, Azale?
I think besides that, IMA taking a win here was a surprise for me, especially in the way that they did. It was a pretty messy game.
Yeah, I think that the only thing I would point out is that RNG is still undefeated down in Group D. Coming up against Samsung tomorrow, that's going to be an interesting matchup.
Yeah, definitely. Talking about tomorrow, Group A will have their time on the Rift when CLG goes up against Albus, Nox, Luna. Then it is Rocks Tigers taking on G2 Esports. Some pretty big games on the day. Anything else that you're looking forward to, Azale?
I'm definitely looking forward to CLG, and this should be pretty routine for them. They had a big win against G2. I'd love to see them clean up against ANX and move to 2-0 in the groups.
Well, here in San Francisco, the cheers for North America have been loud. I'm sure we hear them screaming some more. We'll be back tomorrow with more for another day of games tomorrow, 4 p.m. Pacific time. That's 1 a.m. for those of you observing in Central European summertime. We're going to take a closer look at the day 2 in just a moment. So if you're watching us in client, hit us up on youtube.com/LOL Esports for the full version of Worlds Tonight. And the full version is bringing it back. We touched on a lot of the results, a lot of the games.
Yeah.
I want to go straight to one that stood up to me. SK Telecom versus Cloud9. Everybody was expecting SKT to be bad, and they weren't. Why were they not bad, Azael?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's hard to even read too much into this game as far as their performance. They look incredibly dominant, but I thought C9 was disrespectful. These guys are the defending world champions. You draft yourself a losing lane for Jensen, who talked about wanting to smash Faker. Not only did he not smash Faker, he got absolutely obliterated. He made mistakes, and Faker made him pay big time.
Yeah, they tried to play coy in the pick ban phase, actually, because I think they wanted Bengi to only be able to go towards the Elise early as a first pick and secure themselves Syndra. But what happens? Faker just takes away the Syndra. They've already banned out the counter pick in that Vladimir, and then Faker just takes over the game. And the kicker? Cloud9 then don't even take the Elise away. I mean, that was just so weird to me.
Yeah, especially the Nidalee ban didn't really make any sense to me either when Bengi, I think, has 0 games played on this champion. So there was a lot of questions to be answered for C9 after
I've got a follow-up question because, you know, we got the questions about C9's draft, C9's play.
Yeah.
Syndra first pick was pivotal multiple times throughout the day, and it's something that you know, backstage, a lot of casters were getting quite heated about because of how powerful that pick is in lane.
Yeah, and it's about getting the shove and the priority in that mid lane whilst having legitimate kill threat. As soon as you disappear into Fog of War on this champion, the 1v1 kill threat is just insane. You get a good jungler on top of that, as we have been seeing. The pressure is just so immense, and there's so little margin for error following that champion into Fog of War.
Yeah, the CC combo, and especially in addition with Elise, right? It's so hard. Even when you're under your turret, it's a very easy dive. You hit one of those CCs, especially because Jensen wasn't playing with Cleanse.
No, absolutely not. Ended up hurting him really badly. C9 lose their first game in the group stages. I want to turn to a new team who did not lose their first game in the group stages. IMA, newcomers to the stage. They showed some resilience. They took down the LMS's first seed. Spawn, were you as surprised as I was that they actually won the game?
I am absolutely shocked that
I mean,
this
look
game
at that
went
goal
the way it went.
difference.
I mean,
I didn't know which way you were going to go because you were showing some faith backstage.
I certainly was showing some faith backstage, but at the end of the day, when you have to stall a game out to nearly 50 minutes long, when you're behind until the 40-minute mark, and when you draft, once again, very strangely, I mean, I've never seen a Voidless play Zac. Echo has currently fallen a little bit out of the meta as well. This was just a wacky game that Flash Wolves couldn't close out.
It was one of those games that reminded me a lot of H2K against AHQ, where it's like, all right, great, they're in the lead. Now what do we do? And it just feels like a couple of these teams are really struggling as to the next steps to how they close these games out, right? Flash Wolves gets ahead, and they didn't know exactly where they're supposed to go next.
Yeah, and a lot of that domestically comes from Caster. He's a big X-Factor player for this team. That's why I rate him so highly in my top 20, but he's not having a good tournament so far. It's only 2 games, but when you give away advantages the way he was, and when you're getting out-jungled by a rookie to the stage in a Voidless, that's not a good sign for your team.
No, definitely not the case. We saw the Alistair support coming out again. I think Alistair support's going to become more of a debate/discussion.
Yeah.
Road, it was his birthday. He managed to pick up a win today. But he ain't no Mata, at least in terms of performance. Is that a little unfair?
Is anybody Mata? I mean, I don't think it's unfair when you look at the outstanding performance he had against TSM. Mata basically put the team on his back, and he was making play after play after play. And while I don't think this champion is a permaban for against all teams, I think against the incredible players, kind of similar to Lee Sin, when you have an amazing playmaker on this champion like Mata, you cannot give it to them.
Yeah, I completely agree. I also think you have to look at the context in which the champion's picked. Mata was pretty much solo initiate for his team and was going off, whereas you got a Zac flying in if you're IMA this time around. All Road nearly really had to do was, I mean, keep people off the backline and follow up with some CC. So different context playing the champion, but definitely ain't no Mata in my opinion.
All right, ain't no Mata, but Mata did get himself another win today. Royal never give up. The only team to have a 2-0 record. They made easy work of Europe Splice. Probably the most dominant win that I think we've seen in the first 2 days of competition. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, 100%. That's a fair statement. I think it's the first time we've really seen an individual like go absolutely insane in the way that Uzi did. I mean, we saw Faker's game, but he was really teaming up with the rest of his team. Uzi in this game was shifting forward, had doubled the gold by the end of the game of his opponent in Kobe. And that was the first time you've really seen like one of those huge individual like mismatches on the world stage. And honestly, it's what we feared for Splice, but what we expected out of RNG against people that can't stand up. They're like the bullies of this group.
It's honestly incredible to have that dominant of a 2v2 performance because they were smashing even in the 2v2 without jungle interference. And this is something in this day and age, people have gotten so good at not losing, even if they're not winning. You know, they just play safely, they give up a bit of CS, right? It's one of those things where you can generally keep it close, but to have someone double your gold is just disgusting. It was one of the most dominant performances I've ever seen.
Yeah, but one person you do have to kind of feel a little bit bad for right now is Wonder up in the top lane. You can see he's trying his absolute heart out. Once again, going up against Looper. This guy's all class one more time. Wonder's going with him the entirety of the laning phase. If Splice turn this tournament around, start playing that upset role like we hope they will, it's going to be around their top laner. He is a very good young player.
Though. It's so hard.
He was struggling on Kled, though.
I don't know if they can. I mean, look, the Kled one was a loss for me because he was the primary initiator and didn't seem to be comfortable in the role. Guys who were comfortable today, and the current pride and joy of Europe is H2K.
Yeah.
Honestly, they outclassed INTZ. They had a phenomenal laning phase. They had CS at every stages of the game, and really, they just didn't seem challenged at all by the Brazilians.
For me, this was really a disappointing game from INTZ. After yesterday, how proactive they were, how aggressive they were. And my disappointment honestly started in the draft when you have someone like Yang who showed how he can be extremely lane dominant, works well in combination with Revolta. Why are you not drafting something that has good gank assist, that has the potential to split push and snowball? So I was kind of disappointed that they went for this pick. They were just pretty much happy to lose all lanes and farm until they lost. They just didn't try anything.
Yeah, and the one strategy they did have is, you know, Caitlyn has this famous mid-game power trough. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and get 2 items on our Orianna, get there at a relatively untouched pace, and then win big team fights. However, the mis-execution on those team fights means that I no longer have faith in that composition. If this team doesn't win early, the tournament gets a heck of a lot more difficult because in the team fights, they just didn't do anything.
No.
Yeah, absolutely outclassed. So H2K get a win on the board. We did not see G2 Esports taking part today because they will be playing tomorrow on stage against the Rox Tigers, champions of LCK. Now, Rox, they didn't necessarily look super strong, but they were not tested, right? They were not focusing. You can expect them to be full tryhard tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that if any team is going to smile back at a team like Albus Nox, it will be Rox. I mean, that you can see that they're enjoying that early game a little bit. I do not think that is going to be the case against G2. That's all business for the Rox Tigers. And with how G2 played against CLG and the poor decision-making, particularly out of their bottom lane, freezing waves when they shouldn't be, sticking around for turrets, that's actually what Rox just punish day in, day out in the LCK.
Yeah, Rox are incredibly adept at punishing any sort of macro mistakes like that. They're one of the very best teams in the world at doing it, and you have to think it's even hard to find too many individual matchups that are going to go the way of G2.
Talking about individual matchups, talking about things that are going to go the way of one team or the other. Flash Wolves or Cloud9, immediately following later in the day. Both of these teams looking to take control of second in their group. Azael. Will Cloud9 decide to play League of Legends tomorrow?
I think they will. And this is something where Cloud9 has the propensity to kind of get in their own heads and have some bad games. But I will say, to their credit, in the NALCS and even in the playoffs, they're very good at bouncing back from those games. They recognize their mistakes. They're not the kind of team to get too much in their own head and just get stuck on that. So I think we're going to see a bounce back performance, especially from Jensen. He has a lot to prove here at Worlds.
That's what I was going to say. I think Jensen is a proud player, but I think in the best way possible. He's not going to have liked losing that 1v1 in the fashion he did, and he's going to look to make a statement game here. Hopefully he can step up and have a great performance.
All right, 1 or 2 very quick questions just before we move on. I'm just going to ask about LMS. Today they did not look great, shaky around the edges. Do you think they have what it takes to bounce back, Spawn?
Yeah, I definitely think they do. I think Flash Wolves are a whole different kettle of fish. Their macro looks a little bit sloppy right now, so I think they have more to work on. AHQ, honestly, went into that game against EDG with a huge complex, playing a big brother team, and looked very good in my opinion. One team fight could have swayed that game. Their decision-making was quite good, so more hope for AHQ maybe than Flash Wolves, but I think both teams in an okay spot.
Individually, I was actually really impressed with Ichawi as well. He more than held out. He was doing very, very well in lane and in team fighting. Just really as a whole, they looked pretty strong, but unfortunately some bad decisions late game.
All right, bad decisions, they can be rectified. We'll find out whether or not LMS actually do. Ladies and gentlemen, that is it from us here in San Francisco. Thank you so much for joining us for another edition of Worlds Tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow as the fight for the Summoners Cup continues.
The Dragon low, might get the steal as well. Maple dives in, he wants to fight out.